So today we're going to dive into a story that's about 4,000 years old. But you know what? It speaks to an experience that feels so modern, so incredibly human. We are unpacking the story of Hagar. But before we jump in, let me ask you something. Just think for a second about a time you felt totally overlooked. Like you were unheard or maybe just unseen by the people who were supposed to see you. Just hold on to that feeling because it is absolutely key to understanding the journey we're about to take. All right, so our story kicks off in this really high-stakes environment. We've got three main players, a powerful patriarch named Abram, his wife Sarai, and their Egyptian handmaid Hagar. And there is this immense pressure in the air to produce an heir, a divine promise that just isn't happening. And you can see the power dynamic right here. It's a huge imbalance. On one side, you have Sarai. She's the matriarch, she has status, but she's desperate. And on the other side, Hagar, an Egyptian slave. In the eyes of the law back then, she was literally property. No power, no say in her own life. This massive gap is what sets the whole story in motion. So, Sarai, facing the cultural shame of being childless, comes up with a plan. It was actually a pretty common custom for the time, but often a heartbreaking one. She decides to give Hagar to Abram so Hagar can bear a child for Sarai. For Sarai, this is a solution. But for Hagar, her entire life is about to be turned upside down, and she has zero say in it. So the plan actually works, but it backfires big time. The second Hagar realizes she's pregnant, everything shifts. For the very first time, she has something her powerful mistress doesn't. And that new status, it breathes contempt. All that tension that was just simmering under the surface, well, now it just explodes. Sarai feels her authority slipping, and she reacts with pure cruelty. The text says she dealt harshly with Hagar, which is a nice way of saying it was severe mistreatment, maybe even abuse. For Hagar, this situation has gone from powerless to completely unbearable. This is her breaking point. And that brings us to the next chapter. Hagar makes this incredibly brave, desperate choice. She runs. She escapes her abusers and just flees into the wilderness, trading the certainty of cruelty for the terrifying uncertainty of the unknown. She was mistreated, pushed to the very edge by the people who controlled every aspect of her life. So she fled. No map, no plan, just this raw, overwhelming need to get away. Running headfirst into the void. And you have to understand, the wilderness here isn't just a desert. It's a symbol of total, complete isolation. It's the feeling of being utterly, terrifyingly alone. So just picture it. Hagar, pregnant, exhausted, all alone, collapses by a spring in the middle of nowhere. This is rock bottom, and it's right here, in this moment of absolute despair, that something truly extraordinary happens. A voice, the text calls it an angel of the Lord, speaks to her. And listen to that very first word, Hagar. He calls her by her name. Now, for someone who's been treated like an object, a tool, just being called by your name, well, that's a radical act of recognition. It means she is seen. And this, right here, is the absolute heart of the story. This is the pivot point. It's the moment we go from Hagar being invisible to being profoundly, deeply seen. Hagar's response is one of the most powerful lines in the entire Bible. She essentially looks back at the one who saw her, and she gives this being a name based on her experience. She says, "You are the God who sees me." She names God El Roi, which literally means the God who sees. And what is so mind-blowing about this is that it's the very first time in the entire biblical narrative that a human being gives God a name. And who does it? Not a king, not a prophet. It's an Egyptian slave girl on the run. The one who was unseen is the first one to name God as the one who sees. Wow. But, being seen isn't the end of it. This encounter doesn't just give Hagar comfort. It gives her a future. It's about to transform her from a nobody, an outcast with nothing, into the future matriarch of a great nation. Now, the instructions she gets are tough, really tough. She's told to go back to the place of her abuse and submit to Sarai. But, and this is a huge but, this impossible command is tied directly to a world-changing promise. It's a path through her suffering, but it's a path that leads to a guaranteed legacy. And here's the promise.
Her son is to be named Ishmael, which means God hears, because God has heard her misery. He will father a massive nation. His life will be filled with conflict, sure, but his existence and Hagar's entire lineage is now secure forever.
So that brings us all the way back to the beginning. Why does this ancient story still hit so hard today? Because that feeling of being invisible, it's timeless. The story of Hagar and Elroy is this incredible beacon of hope that even when we're in our own wilderness, at our lowest point, our pain is not invisible. It's a story that insists that we can be seen.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. In a world that is just full of people feeling overlooked and unheard, who in your life, in your family, at your job, in your community, who needs you to be their Elroy? Who just needs to be truly seen by you?